very much. And now I'd like to invite the other speakers up so we can have a short Q&A. So thank you all. That was really interesting. I feel like we had a really good snapshot of a few different areas of media there. To start out, then, I wanted to ask, our other speakers touched on AI as kind of a solution to help with their problems. And I think we hear a lot of social networks sometimes saying about how they're working on AI algorithms to try to solve these disinformation issues. Is that something you see that is really going to be a tool to help improve this?
I think that right now we're seeing much more of the weaponization than the idea towards building solutions, because disinformation at scale is basically just rogue marketing. So I look forward to a point where we can get there, but right now it's not looking ideal.
Got it. And then to both of you, I'm curious, as AI improves, we've heard a lot about some of the new directions it's going today. Do you think how is it going to improve your lines of work? Do you see steps that it can take further to make your systems even better than they are now?
Yeah, okay, I can start. I think there's still a long way to go in making the consumption experiences a lot better and the user experiences. So, we still heavily invest in personalization initiatives and related content recommendations. UX AI is still big, and of course, being able to learn from our data is still huge. I guess we don't really have any sophisticated AIs really in production yet that automate the learning of insights beyond just reporting on the metrics of content we've published. But yeah, that's still always very important. And being on top of what the social platforms are doing is still something we're trying to achieve, and I think that's something that AI can help us with as well.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think AI is gonna help us rediscover some things that of how human behavior actually works. I think there has been a lot of changes, a lot of theories around it that has been proven wrong once we started using all this concept of AI. So I think that it's actually going to help us understand better the way people shop, think, decide, and that's going to be very relevant in the next couple of years.
And I think just to dovetail onto what both Lucy and Roberto said, as far as the AI for solutions, one of the biggest issues is having access to the right training data sets. Oftentimes, if the platforms want to do something, they're applying AI to trust and safety, they might be using data that's a year old, and all of the tactics and the playbook has changed by then, so there's only so much of the problem that it can even begin to address.
Got it. And now I'm curious, talking about some of the affiliate marketing techniques, we've also talked a little bit about politics up here. Do you think there's any overlap, say that political campaigns might use some of these affiliate marketing techniques?
Yeah, for sure. There's well-known cases. A lot of these techniques that involve interaction with the users are commonly used on political campaigns. All these tools that, basically it doesn't matter if you're trying to sell a product or an idea, okay? As long as you follow some simple rules and try, and keep on testing to discover what clicks, it works. And we have analyzed a lot of cases from past Trump's election campaign, where this company that helped them do the digital marketing used a lot of interaction tools like programs and little quizzes to interact with people and further segment the audience to make it more efficient on the delivery of the message. And you could do that for products as well. So it's only natural that works in both environments.
Sure. And speaking of some of the past elections that we've had, it seems like a lot of these disinformation campaigns and stuff came to light after there's a lot of studies done on, say, the 2016 elections and the midterms. How in each of your areas have you seen kind of this information being used or the area evolving? Do you think it's going to still stay the same for, say, the US 2020 elections or other local elections here?
Yeah, so I guess from the content creation side, even from the my data science team, we've found that that some of our competitors are are using bots to promote their own content on and uplift its performance on social platforms. And it didn't even really require like sophisticated AI for us to discover that. It's just like, oh, well, we noticed that this competitor keeps creating fake users to keep commenting on their own content on Facebook at like such regular intervals that it's like any human could have detected that. So that's just like one tiny thing that we're doing. But I think on the journalism side of BuzzFeed, like we're heavily investing in that disinformation beat. And that team is led by Craig Silverman, who worked on a lot of those investigations in the very beginning. And we also, in that content creation side, we've created regular quizzes, like on a regular basis, that quiz your knowledge and your ability to detect what news is fake and what isn't. And so we've been just working a lot in educating people about disinformation. We also have like a new game show called Outside Your Bubble to see like how well you can think and how much you know outside of your so-called media echo chamber. So we have like a lot of initiatives like that just as content creators alone.
Sure.
And I think that, 2019 is a massive year for global elections. Obviously, we have the 2020 US election. We also have the census in 2020, another very big one. And I think as far as the disinformation landscape goes, deplatforming has played a very big role in pushing concentrated, active disinformation communities together in one space. So oftentimes, like the 2020 disinformation campaigns began the day after the midterm elections.
Sure.
And then really a lot of the people targeted there have just been ramped up since, potentially announcing their candidacy. So, we're looking at things much more also on a global context, specifically, after the Bolsonaro election in Brazil. It had been very strange in the May before the election to see neo-Nazi websites in America promoting Bolsonaro and promoting Duterte and promoting other authoritarian figures. So, I think as we move forward, we're really seeing it at scale in ways that we couldn't really understand in 2016, let's say.
Sure. Anything you want to add, Roberto?
Yeah, I think usually these techniques that are being used right now to push all this content, the people behind it are one step ahead to the platform. So Facebook and all these platforms are always trying to catch up, but they seem to always find a way of delivering the message that they want to the people that they want. So I don't think 2020 is going to be much different than it was on 2016.
Got it. And talking a little bit more about, the positive angles of some of these impacts, Lucy, have you seen any interesting ways of actually creating new content with the AI or using some of these tools actually to create new journalism that maybe you weren't able to report on before?
Yeah, I've definitely seen some other media companies have been taking that on. They've already built some AIs to cover some of their more like formulaic news coverage, so like weather reports and like reporting financial figures, and that's already being done. We haven't we've been trying to do like a little fun application of it, where we kind of just like use AI to generate inspiration for some of our more creative content, like our videos on YouTube. Like, let's create just like silly, kind of ridiculous things that, since that's like a whole meme on Twitter anyways, like your AI generated blank. So like we're kind of just playing around with that. But kind of for our other legs of our content creation, we're probably not going to use that as much.
Sure.
And probably not in the near future anyways.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Washington Post actually has a bot that writes a lot of the local sports coverage.
Yep.
Which is really, I mean, as a journalist, really scary, but also really, really cool to know that instead of having a team of 50 journalists going to every high school soccer and football game, you can just have a bot kind of taking these scores in and generating, a couple lines of copy.
Yeah, I was looking at trying to automate my own job and write automated things on shuttle launches and stuff, so still getting there, but we'll see what happens. And then stepping back a little bit from AI, I'm sure you guys use a lot of other technologies in your jobs as well. And I was curious, what other emerging technologies do you kind of have your eye on that you think are going to really make an impact in media in the future?
Roberto, you want to take this one?
Well, that's a good question. I think one of the tools that we're trying to look forward to using eventually is trying to understand how people spend their time while visiting a website. What aspect do they focus on? Like if they, get fixated on the title, or they go, or they're biased towards the center of the content. Like what's the if you present a website to a user, how does the user actually navigate the website? Okay, so that's something that right now it's very limited, and it's only done, by placing a camera in front of the computer. So it's not something that you will have like massive access. But there's a lot of tools right now that could mimic some of those components, and we're trying them right now to better understand how people actually read a website and interact with different components. I would say that's the main thing we're looking at.
Sure. Anything else from either of you?
No, I think what we just touched upon,
Yeah.
like automated journalism, is something I think is pretty interesting and can be very dangerous, but still want to get involved in that in some way.
And then I think the other really scary thing right now is synthetic media. There's a lot of conversations about, deep fake videos and how, global elections are going to be disrupted by this. But synthetic media has actually been something, we've had in the entertainment industry for decades. But as the cost of production actually goes down and it becomes more DIY, it could become very disruptive, in the coming years.
For people who might not be aware, could you talk a little bit about what deepfakes actually are?
Sure. So deep fakes are essentially manipulated videos that either have new figures added to them or different actions performed, so that you could actually create a high definition video of something or someone that didn't actually happen at all. So in the same way that in the new Star Wars movies, old characters from the 70s and 80s have been brought back using kind of synthetic, facial technology. People want to start applying that to disinformation and politics, and it's a bit disturbing. But at the same time, we can step back and recognize this is something that's been in our culture for a while. It was just never insidiously evil.
Sure.
And now we're at a point where, because disinformation as it is right now, it is something that we need to be concerned about.
Great. All right, I have an audience question here to pull up too. So how can you use AI to identify which people might be interested in different types of content than they follow? For example, someone that follows your politics page, they might be interested in other channels. I think this is for Lucy.
Yeah, so it's easy if that consumption's happening on our owned and operated entities, so like BuzzFeed.com or apps. It's harder to track on like Facebook or Twitter because those platforms anonymize that data. I mean, we also anonymize our data, but we can't like track cross-platform as easily. So like, whereas a user's behavior on our website, like we don't know their name or any information about them, but there is like a consistent like ID that's attached to them. So we could see like whether they're into both politics and cooking content, and like we can look across that. But we normally because there's so many users to analyze, we just look at them at a very aggregated, like on a very high level scale. So we're looking at clusters of users, and we find like we love looking at clusters of users that have strong affinities to each other and that have very similar consumption behavior. And like we love seeing like, oh, these people both love sports and Kim Kardashian content, and like that's always fun. And the results will always surprise you. But yeah, that's like that's more in like the clustering analysis side of the data science we do.
Interesting. And I'm curious, just to kind of follow up on that, I know BuzzFeed is one of the companies that you were mentioning has so many different pages to kind of divide interests. Was that a conscious decision related to any of these like new technologies or things trying to target the content, or was that something that BuzzFeed always did from the beginning?
It's always been that way from the beginning. We like to have these defined brands and pages for very select audiences who like that type of content. It's just only now have we been automating some parts of it.
Sure.
Some of the curation side of that.
Got it. Well, we have another audience question. I think this one's for Roberto. So what is the quality of the likes that are coming through those affiliate marketing, and how do you turn those insights into conversion?
Well, I guess the main thing that we do to try to maximize the conversion rates is segment properly the audience. So some of the products that we sell, some of the offers that we have a very specific niche where they work a lot better, and even so, some specific countries. So the first step is trying to identify the market that's most suited, more suitable for this offer, and then that's when we start to doing the test, right? So we have like an initial theory of what we think it could work, and then we start testing and recombining all these options based on the data that we have, and that's basically how we find the profitable campaigns. And he mentioned what's the quality of the clicks. I mean, the quality of the clicks it depends on the combination of how good the campaign is and how well targeted the audience is. So it's not like a simple question. It really varies between verticals and markets.
Got it. And then, Ben, just to talk a little bit about some of this, it seems like you've done a lot of research and kind of acquiring data on some of these pages. Have you created any new tools to be able to really combine all of that data and have it all in one place for easy analyzing these big networks?
I mean, yes and no. I think that, the biggest solution moving forward as far as how to address this is really collaboration and creating shared data hubs. And I think that, on one end, it's sort of aggregating the donors and the researchers seeking money to start to work together more than anything else, because most of the technology that we use is actually like more or less marketing tools that we reverse engineer to look at audience development. And, there's many of us who do some really, really basic, like almost Neolithic tactics, like creating a new user on YouTube and navigating what that tabula rasa experience looks like if you click on a conspiracy video for the fake moon landing. And then what is YouTube going to continue to recommend to that user? And then, there's a lot of spreadsheeting, some Pythoning, and, really it's about collaboration. So we're getting there. We're not there yet, though.
Sure. All right, got another audience question here. So do these technologies have an impact on plagiarism or content that is not attributed? How is this changing journalism as a profession when there is so much content being reshared?
I might just put it out there and say that the technology has no impact on plagiarism or non-attributed content. And that's actually one of the biggest reasons that disinformation on Facebook has become such a huge issue. When I showed the graph with mainstream media audiences on Facebook and the junk news space, a lot of that middle that's occupied by the junk news landscape is all plagiarized content, and none of it's attributed. There's not a single author. So it's cheapened journalism. It's made it really hard to find sustainable financial models to keep newsrooms afloat, acquire new tools and skills, and continue to produce good journalism. And that's why, unfortunately, we're starting to see many, many news deserts prop up all over the country where, there are literally not financial resources to keep a newspaper afloat. And globally, this is really problematic because these news deserts will kind of exist for a couple of months, and then all of a sudden, you will see another office for Russia Today or Sputnik open up because somebody is going to pay the journalists to do something. The question is what?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think we have time for one more question, so I'll just finish out with trying to be on a little bit more of a hopeful note, I guess, which is there's a lot of talk about trying to create these financial models to support journalism. And I know that was one of the things you were talking about, and that's how some of these platforms are being able to support themselves. What do you think is the future of really supporting these digital journalism age for creating these actual news and not this F** news.
Thank you.
Well, I see. I don't see a bright future. Sorry. Content, and transform it to make it look more original in the eyes of networks like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I don't see that trend stopping. So I think we're gonna, in the next couple of years, we're gonna be flooded with all this, useless pile of information, and that it's just trying to grab a piece of attention from the huge amount of people that use social networks and trying to monetize it in some way. So I think there's the incentive are there to keep doing this because it's profitable.
Sure.
So I don't see a trend reversal anytime soon.
Got it. Anything from either of you? No. All right. Well, thank you all for this interesting conversation. I really enjoyed that. And now I'd like to invite you all to enjoy some networking time and a coffee break outside, and the program will continue at 4. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.